your unconscious competence is going to come through. And that is what people are looking for. We don't want your clean, scripted messaging. We want your raw, creative, passionate, authentic work, because that's the chicken stock of who you are, your life, and your essence. So whatever you're doing, go out and speak.
That's so powerful. Oh my gosh. Like we could have a 30-minute session on this, because this is my jam. This is where I love to help people, whether it's in a small group. We run these small mastermind groups, and we get this dynamic where it gives people a place to sit in the middle of the tribe and talk and explain and get insights and be able to get reflections on things they can't do. Welcome back to the Pod Profit Summit. I have the delight in this session of being greeted and joined by Dolores Hirschmann. So Dolores is kind of a legend, honestly, in the speaking space. So she's an internationally recognized investor, strategist, speaker. She's the founder of a really amazing company called Masters in Clarity. And one of the things she did most recently that's going to really tie into her talk is she sold one of her companies to Pete Vargas and Grant Cardone, and supported before that exit, growing it to 8 figures. And she's also a former TEDx organizer. So she has a ton of wisdom around speaking, podcasting, and business exits and really business growth and optimization. And so what Dolores is really going to focus on today is preparing your business for an exit, whether you're actually going to exit or not. And then we can tie in, podcasting and podcast guesting into strategies around how to support that. So Dolores, I'm really grateful that you're here. It's so cool that we got to meet and that we get to share your wisdom with our audience. So I'm going to kind of hand the mic over to you, and you can start us wherever you think is most relevant to dive into your session today.
Awesome, Dustin. Thank you so much for this space and for this opportunity. If you know about selling something, for example, if you ever sold a home, you know that right before you put it in the market, you go and clean all the things, right? You patch the whole wall, you put a new oven. Why? Because you want to sell your home for the highest price. Business is the same thing. And so when I talk about exit, I talk about how do you prepare your business for having the highest valuation in the market. And I'm going to go through a few items, what I call the ultimate exit checklist, which, we'll talk about that more at the end. But really, what are the things you want to look for as you think about what would my business sell in the open market? And I'll say something before we even start. I specialize with the hard to sell businesses. Which are those? Those are the businesses that are service professional type businesses that have been started by consultants and coaches and experts and authors that you would say, well, I'm the business, it's the Dustin business or the Dolores business. Who would buy a business if I'm getting out? And that's really where the magic happens. First of all, the first step you want to take is look at your business and separate you from the work that you do. Hard to do, but that's the first step. You have to look deep into it and understand that, yes, you might have started this business. Yes, you might be the spokesperson and the face, but there is a possibility that your frameworks or the things you teach can live beyond you teaching it. So it's actually the same concept of scaling. It's the same thing we would do if you're looking to scale, if you're looking to move from the trading, what it's called trading dollars for hours. That's the first step. So understanding that your work is not you is the first step. That's going to
and maybe the hardest, I'd say, for our audience. I think our audience is a lot of people like you and I who were founders, we're the experts. We develop these things from scratch, in a sense. And so our identity is really tied into our business. And I think that's when it's most important to do this, right? And so I kind of whispered when I was introducing the title, but the reality is whether you're actually I think I will actually exit my business next year or 5 years or 10 years, or maybe you're I don't know that I'd ever exit this. I love it. It's really, it's what I get up every day and love to do. You should still be preparing as if you were exiting, to your opening point, Dolores. I think I'm really excited to hear the other points, but this one point is a total game changer. And it's actually something in the past, I'd say 12 to 18 months that I've really taken to heart and done a lot of work around, is removing myself. If God forbid, if I get hit by a bus, is there some value here for my family? That sort of mindset. And
that's the thing.
And the downside of that is kind of really not really a lot of downside. The upside is huge because it becomes a saleable asset. It is able to scale. And there's the thing, it does have some legacy value if I'm not here for some reason. So,
yeah. And for me, I learned this, like, we learn how we learn. I learned by the experience I had with Pete. Is like I was going about my business, running my business like many of us do, and in the day to day, like doing the thing. There was one element in my business, one service I was offering that he's like, I've been wanting to do that in my business. Would you partner with me? Can I license your intellectual property? And that's where I started like learn. This was like 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
It's like, whoa, you wanna license my thoughts and my ideas and my SOPs, my processes, which I happen to have well documented for whatever reason. That's how I'm wired. I'm a mom of four. That's the only way I kept my
That's how you survive, right?
yeah, that's my MO. So that was the first time I recognized that our ideas are assets, but our ideas in our head cannot be consumed by others. So what we want to make sure is that, so that what's the second step? So first step is, understanding the difference between we are the business and our work as a business and kind of bring it down on paper or on Google Doc and give it its own shape, its own tangibility. I don't know if that's a word. I'm from Argentina, so.
I think it's a beautiful English word. So if you just created it, it sounds great. So
the second step is document it. Document the core processes of the work that you do. Document your frameworks, document your methodologies, because that becomes an asset. That's called IP, intellectual property, and that has a value. And whether you sell it or even better, you license it. When you license it, it's even better because you still own it.
Yeah.
And people are like renting it or borrowing it. And then they're using what you have created to create a new entity. Like in the example with Pete, is like, I was like, let's play and let's figure it out. And it went from zero to, a lot of billions of dollars in 4 years. And then, Grant Cardone came in and he took it over. And now it's called 10X Stages.
I was going to say, just so people aren't familiar with that, 10X Stages was the kind of final name and form of that. I guess.
Final, yeah. It started as stage agency, and then 2 years into it, when Grant came in, it turned into 10X Stages. I was the director of 10X Stages for the first 2 years of existence. Oh. But all this began with my SOPs, my recipes, what I call the recipes, right? Yeah. And so step number 2 for your ultimate exit checklist: document. Doesn't matter if you think, oh, it's so obvious, document. Yeah. So what happens when you document? Many things happen. If you're a solopreneur and you begin documenting, now you have a way to bring in an assistant without spending your time. Let me give you an example. 12 years ago, I was a solopreneur and I started to grow and I was like, oh, this is hard. And again, this is my MO. So one of the things I had done without really knowing what I was doing, I call this unconscious competent. And many of us have things we do that are unique to us, that makes us stand out and makes us succeed, but we just don't even know we're doing it. So what was it for me? Is like from the beginning, maybe I'm lazy and was before ChatGPT. Like every time I would write an email or a DM, I would copy my response and dump it in a Google Doc. Every time. So by the time I got my assistant, her name is Laura, and she's still actually in my team, I said to her, look, here's a very long, messy Google Doc with many of the things I've responded to, leads or clients or requests to speak or whatever. First step, can you please organize it? Second, can you just read it because you'll actually understand my voice.
Yes.
So immediately I got Laura to come work with me, and she was taking over my inbox. And that fear of, oh, I'm going to have an assistant. They're going to take over my inbox. What are they going to say? Are they going to mess it up? Will I lose clients? Like, there's so much fear in delegation. But I trusted her, and because you need to trust people. You're going to do that. You can't micromanage. But I trusted, and I gave her tools. I didn't just trust blindly. I said, trust, and I gave her a resource of my voice documented in action. Was it messy? Absolutely. Was it it was definitely not perfect. She made it better. She organized it. She categorized it. And that became my voice and the voice of my business. And so as Laura came on board and then another team came on board, now it's become the document where everybody knows how we respond to things.
Awesome.
So that's a simple example of documenting.
Yeah. And if you had that today, because now, technology continues to progress, you can take that document, especially if it's well organized, say, ChatGPT, become my avatar. And then Laura, you can use that as a tool as the first draft, and then she can refine it. So, but the point is, the need to document and the need to get things out of your brain into some external brain, even if it's a Google Doc, remains, right? Even as technology advances and makes it maybe a little easier or a little more useful for the end user. So that's another thing I've experienced. I hired an executive assistant, last year, and went through the same process. And that was the mindset I took, was like, again, I get hit by the bus, my brain goes away, like, where's the business? And so just getting things out of Dustin's brain into documents, Loom videos, ClickUp systems, like true SOPs. But it started kind of, I don't know, get all these Post-it notes and like, here's my Post-it notes and here's all these papers. These are all things that no one knows what's on here. And yeah, so I love the general mindset of, number one, starting to separate you from the work you do, and two, documenting, because I think probably universally, but for sure most entrepreneurs and experts and solopreneur types, founders, totally underestimate what is in that, like when they start to document, or they're like, why would anyone want a license from me? Or I don't have any IP, I'm just a coach, or I'm just a consultant.
We all have IPs. The unique way we make a difference in people's lives is our intellectual property.
Yes.
When you document that, you do two things. One is you preserve it for the future. Like you say, something happens or you want to exit. But two, you create, think of it as this way. I believe that each one of us doing this type of work, putting our ideas and our thoughts out there, we have an intention of bettering people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot be more proud that the ideas that I had in 2016, 2017, 2018 ended up helping hundreds, if not thousands of people through the partnership I did with Pete.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have gone that big. It's not how I'm wired. I am more of a visionary. There's two types of people. Visionaries and there's many types of people, but in this space, I want to focus on visionary and stars. This is the wealth dynamics personality testing.
Visionary and stars
and creators and stars. And creators can also be visionaries, but they call it creator, star, and then there's mechanics and there's other types.
Okay.
But I dance between my personalities, between creator and star. I'm more of a creator than I'm a star. What does that mean? That my happy place is the creating something that doesn't exist, which, by the way, is also I believe, and I've learned this over the years, is the definition, or my definition of leadership. Is a leader is someone that creates a reality or a future that doesn't exist today. This is from Brandon Craig, someone I worked with years ago. So if, as a creator, I'm more interested in imagining a new future than I am as what's called, Tony Robbins calls a dancing bear, than I am being in the middle of hundreds or thousands of people. I do that. I can do that. I enjoy that, but it doesn't fuel me as much as creating a new future does. Yes. And so I'm more wired to help people who are stars create amazing businesses using my intellectual property. I'm happy to do those types of partnerships because that's what I'm wired for. So back to the exit path, understanding where you are unique and where you add value can help you maybe not exit, but sprout. Use ideas to sprout new companies. Like Masters in Clarity actually didn't exit. It's been around for over 10 years now. Mm. What we licensed for a period of time is the knowledge on how to create a system to get people on stages. That's what we did, right? In 10x stages. Yep. And there was a licensing and it ended. And so that intellectual property is still mine. They have taken and adapted it and created their version, and it's great and it's profitable and it's serving a lot of people. And then I actually have taken that same knowledge and created my own new version of it. I launched a software this year with that knowledge. So first of all, exit or selling your intellectual property or your work doesn't need to be like I shut down this business or I get out of this business and I can no longer do it. It has so many ways of showing up in the world.
Love that.
And just opening
That's a
the
great
gate.
distinction. Yeah, because I'm kind of belaboring this, but it's for a purpose, in that this exiting or having a saleable business does not mean you're retiring, right? It's like, it doesn't even mean you're selling the business. To your point, it could mean you're licensing IP. You still have to go through these
An
steps.
idea and allowing it to grow somewhere else in a
Yes.
fertile ground with
Yes.
the right partner. Like in this, like how many of you listening to this interview have ideas that you have brought them out, but not to the full extent for whatever reason, because you have other focuses. Like some of us, like I have more ideas between the moment I wake up and my first mate. And I know I will not pursue all these ideas. I remember one time, I think it was my husband or someone said, "Don't give your ideas away." And I'm like, I cannot not. Like, I'll be drowning in ideas if I don't. This concept of understanding that if you're a generator of ideas, what would it look like to document these and find the right fertile partner or fertile ground? In the case of what I did was like, it was someone who had an audience who was ready for this service. I was not going to scale it because I like running a high level boutique marketing thing. Yeah. And I did run that show for them, but I didn't want to own it.
Yeah, I love that. I think I guess it's an application, but another way for people to like get in this mindset is like, I just had an amazing interview yesterday with Jay Papasan. So he's the co-author of The One Thing. So he's the book nerd. He's the writer. He loves it. And so he took Gary Keller's ideas and his own ideas, right? But they came together and wrote this like 6 million copy, New York Times bestselling book. And then if you're familiar with like Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, amazing frameworks, very creative. He's definitely a creator, right? Kind of behind the scenes. A lot of people don't even know him, but like super successful. Then he had all these concepts, and then Dr. Benjamin Hardy comes along, becomes his partner, his co-author, to take these documented processes that have been so successful in Strategic Coach and make them into 3, best-selling books. So like that's how I'm thinking about this from an application, is like, what would be necessary for me to have Benjamin Hardy come to my office and be like, "Oh, I want to take your podcast Profits Accelerator, make it into a book." Great. But then most of that's up here. It's like I got to document it. I need to get it out. I need to process it so that someone else can go take my ideas and take them into a different stage or a different version. And so I love this is really unlocking a lot actually for me too, Dolores. So I appreciate it. So we should keep going. Those we got step 1 and 2, and then we'll tie this in, podcasting at some point here too.
So I'll go quick. So basically, it's separating, documenting, and then it's the process of begin to work above the business, and not in the business. That sounds like a cliche, but really is kind of what you and I are talking about. What does it look like to start generating multiple initiatives, whether it's within your business or with partners, that can actually scale fast? Because you're no longer in the nitty gritty, but you are in the role that you need to have, because that's how you're wired. So working above the business. And then the last thing I would say on this, just the natural process is becoming that spokesperson and that thought leader for your work, your ideas, and your vision. And that's where podcast comes in. So whether you're about to sell your business, you never thought of selling your business, but if business is part of what resonates with you, meaning that you are in business, then you must be out there speaking. Yes. You must be out there having conversations. Podcasts, what I love about podcasts is that it is a precursor of speaking. So if you're afraid of speaking or you have stage fright, then go do podcasts. Because podcasts are simply conversations with other humans that can be candid and honest and authentic, non-scripted, non-rehearsed, and from the heart, really. And so I would say go and have 100 interviews. What's going to happen, and now we have ChatGPT. You do 100 interviews, you feed them into ChatGPT, and actually, I can even give you this. I have a framework on how to write your talk.
I was going to say, you're like the guru on this.
Put it in my framework, how to write a high converting signature talk, and ChatGPT is going to give you a signature. Now you become a speaker. But anyway, if you go and have 100 or 10 or 50 or whatever you want conversations, what you're going to find is a common denominator language that you use to answer the questions, and that becomes your unique messaging. A lot of people struggle with messaging, Justin, because they're sitting in a vacuum trying to come up with the words.
Yes, yes. Preach, yes. Amen. This is like something we talk about all the time. So.
That when you are in a conversation, those words come. It's like, how I never tried. I have 4 kids, but I was a chicken. I didn't try this. But they say that if you throw a baby in water at a very early age, the baby will swim.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't try it. I tried a little bit, but I was right there.
The same. I have 3 kids. I'm like, I've probably done the dad version of this. But I pick them up really quick because I was too scared. Yeah.
But we are humans who use language to communicate. And so don't be afraid to jump into the water of a podcast interview and just speak. Because what's going to happen if you kind of remove your frontal cortex and all your judgment, your unconscious competence is going to come through. And that is what people are looking for. We don't want your clean, scripted messaging. We want your raw, creative, passionate, authentic words, because that's the chicken stock of who you are, your life, and your essence. So whatever you're doing, go out and speak.
That's so powerful. Oh my gosh. We could have a 30-minute session on this. This is my jam. This is where I love to help people, whether it's in a small group. We run these small mastermind groups, and we get this dynamic where it gives people a place to sit in the middle of the tribe and talk and explain and get insights and be able to get reflections on things they can't do. And then we kind of do this evangelization part where they go out on podcasts and they get interviewed. To your point, you develop your voice that way, you find the hooks. So you may just be and what you said really unlocked for me that I've never labeled this way. But now I will, and I'll give you credit. But you get to discover your unconscious competence, right? You can go sit in a closet as long as you want and think and think and think, or even journal and journal and journal. But it's actually that human to human interaction and the conversations, that dynamic vibration, God's grace, whatever you want to call it. There is a real energy there that taps into your brain and frees you up to get you going. And then someone's like, "Oh my gosh, can you repeat that?" And you're like, "Oh yeah,
that's
I don't know where that came from, but it's in here." And I would imagine, Dolores, you correct me if I'm wrong, that would be a great way to find some of this sort of really valuable IP. It's oh, this is in my brain, but the way to get it out is to talk. And if you could talk on a podcast, achieving that goal, you're building a relationship, you're creating content for other people to see, you're generating leads. There's now you're on my soapbox of podcast guesting, but there's so many good things. But this part is something we don't talk nearly enough about.
Well, and here's the thing, Dustin, and I appreciate the space you've created, because whatever I just shared, I've never shared it ever.
No, there you go. It's a real life example. She's like, I got my next book.
And so I just dawned on me, what did I just create? Yes. I just created myself as a creator and visionary for stars. Mm-hmm. In this moment, I'm actually getting chills. And amazing. I don't know what's going to happen, but if you're listening to this and you have a big audience and you're running out of ideas, or you have a vision, but you're not sure how to kind of bring it to life, let's talk, because chances are I can help you create what your audience needs that you haven't been able to create.
Yes, that's so beautiful. That's so cool. We created right here. We created some IP for Dolores, and we kind of did for me too. Right? Now this is another element of, I already have a long enough list of all the reasons you should do podcast guesting, because that's what we help people with. But this is another really important one, is getting insight into your own unique ability, your own genius, your own IP through the process of interviews. And I'm hosting a call after our interview today, Dolores, with our current cohort, and there's a woman named Michelle, and she's in Canada. She's a career coach, very much a creator, not a star, sort of demure and reserved. We've gotten her out of her shell, and she's been doing podcast interviews, and she landed the career podcast of her dreams for women, middle-aged women, her target market. And so that happened last week. And then right after that, after they said yes, when she reached out to them, she booked a TV appearance, which is happening Friday. And so she's like, I'm going to miss part of the call today because I'm talking to the producer. She's never been on TV before. And then she also booked a really important stage for her. Reflecting back to her, I'm like, she's, oh, you guys, this is because of you and because of your group. I'm like, no, this is all you. The difference between you 6 weeks ago and you today is you started doing reps and you started taking action and you started talking about what you do. And with that came so much clarity, and you remained open to feedback, and but first podcast interview to big podcast interview to TV to stage within the course of 2 months. And I'm like, that's awesome. So yeah, it's like magic, but really what it is doing the work in a strategic way, right? So
And showing up.
And showing up. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, this is so good. Maybe I just want to kind of round out this part before we kind of transition back and talk about specifically what you do and next steps. So with podcast guesting, so we're kind of back to this frame of, if you want to exit your business or you want to prepare your business as if you're going to be able to exit, we just talked about a really magical part of this for both of us, which is podcast guesting to clarify your message and identify your unconscious competence and that sort of thing. Clarify your messaging. We'll just call it that. What else? Like why else would podcast guesting play into the equation of having a valued business?
And if you're really ready for that exit conversation, you could actually go find podcasts with your ideal buyers. Where the audience is your ideal buyers. And you can go and say, hey, I'm this age, or I am in this point of my life, or there's many reasons to exit. You can exit because you're aged. You can exit because, became a parent and you want whatever, there's many reasons. And I would say, talk about what is the easiest way to get what you want? Ask for it.
Talk about it and ask for it. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And so get clear what you want and then go talk about it. So have an interview, say, hey, I love my business, and this is what I do. And also I'm ready for something else. So here's what it's next for me. I'm looking for the right partner to go and take over my work and bring it to another level, whatever it is you want. Whatever it is you want, go interview and share it.
I love that. I have so many examples. It's so true. Like in my own personal life, I'm a partner in a consumer packaged good business. It's kind of what brought me into this whole world of podcasting. People will know if they're familiar with my story, but it's irrelevant. I was in Boise last summer for Craft and Commerce. I was there for a conference. A friend of a friend said, I know this guy. So I ended up doing this in-person podcast interview. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. And then he actually took me out to dinner, and that was it. So completely, I have no connection to this person. We're talking about this business, 7-figure leap, but this Fire Creek Snacks, my other business, just kind of comes up casually. And he's like, tell me about that. How you feel about that? I was like, I'm kind of starting to resent it a little bit because it's like, I'm so focused on my current thing, and I really should exit this partnership. We just need to find the right partner for my current partner. Like 2 or 3 months later, I get this email, hey, can we talk? A text actually. He's like, hey, I was really intrigued, and I talked to this other guy, and so it's not final. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it and hex it, but we're about 99% of the way to that guy being the new partner that I sell my. And I'm like, just because I talked about it, right? It's like, and talked about my desire to I think this is something I should do. And so that happened to be a one-on-one conversation. Well, actually, it wasn't. It was a podcast, but the conversation happened offline, one-on-one. But to your point, Dolores, like doing that transparently, vulnerably with an audience in a podcast audience, maybe that host is your buyer, maybe their listeners are a buyer, maybe some of the other guests that are in the ecosystem are your buyer, or of all those people, think of all the tentacles that they know, people that would be buyers. You have zero chance of them buying your business if you don't talk about it, and you have a decent chance if you do. So I think that's a really on the nose, practical reason that podcast guesting, when you're thinking about exiting or preparing to exit, is super valuable. So any other final things before we close up?
And I don't know if you've thought about it or you're talking about this, but this just came up for me. In the world of AI, of avatars that speak for you, I don't know, and maybe I don't know, and it exists, but I don't think there is. AI cannot yet take over podcasting. They can take over me speaking. They can create a deep fake of me and do the whole thing. But AI, if you're watching a podcast, it's real.
Yes.
So I didn't think about that until just now. I'm sure you do, and you talk about it.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. I spoke at Traffic and Conversion Summit last year, which is a big marketing conference, and it was January 2020. Yeah, it was a big marketing conference. They just quit, but anyway, it was January 2024. So AI is a real thing, but 80-90% of the agenda is AI, and I'm there to talk about podcasting. And that was kind of my opening line, impromptu. But I was there, and I'm like, all this AI. I was like, hey, listen, AI is going to replace a lot of stuff. It can clone me and Dolores as avatars, and we can have a podcast interview without us in the room, but it would suck, right? Because it would be
can tell.
It would be factual. It would have bullet points, but what it wouldn't have is, oh man, that reminds me of this thing that happened in Boise, or wow, I just got tingles. This is the first time I've thought of this, because it was your brain plugged into this conversation that created something new. And I totally agree with you. I hope, and I'm very bullish on podcasting as like a human to human communication channel that's still going to get more and more valuable, because there's going to be less and less real connection. That's kind of the way I view it. And I feel like this is a sacred space. It's the equivalent of getting around a campfire in a cave, but using modern technology to do it. So we can share ideas, and we can be like Socrates and Plato or whoever we're in those ancient times, but we're able to do it using modern technology, but in a way that remains human to human and authentic. And so I think podcasting is here to stay, and we'll see, but it's here now, and it's extremely powerful now. And I know you've experienced a lot from it too. So we should probably transition. I know you and I could talk forever, and maybe I'm sure we'll talk some more, but for the purposes of this session, I don't want to miss the opportunity for our audience to know more about you and what you actually do at Masters in Clarity Masters in Clarity. Dang, I said it right, and then second guess myself. So Masters in Clarity. If someone's in this space and they're like, I'm a founder, I've got some cool IP, I've created a cool coaching business, and I'm not really even sure like what to do next to prepare to exit, is that a reason to reach out to you, Dolores? And then we'll talk about your free resource for people coming out of this session.
Yeah. So first of all, we will give you a free resource called the Ultimate Exit Checklist, so that I'll talk about a little things that we just discussed. But at Masters in Clarity, what we do is we help small business owners market themselves powerfully, exit if that's what they need, or get the business ready to exit so they can work above their business and scale. My expertise is in speaking. I coach a lot of business owners to become speakers, to grow their business and grow their influence. And we place people on stages, on TEDx stages, and everything in between.
That's beautiful. So aspiring to speak, you want to speak more, or you want to elevate your status in your own company as a thought leader and work above the business, or a lot of times we'll say on the business instead of in the business. You need help with that and how to get this IP out and make it a part of a saleable asset in your business. Those are all reasons you should reach out to Dolores. Besides the fact that she's just a complete delight and a great conversationalist. So specific to this session and next steps, as far as we started talking about this checklist, but I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I mean, I'm the host and I've got like pages of notes. So if people are like, I need the boilerplate checklist of this, where should people go to grab the checklist?
So go to mastersinclarity.com/exit, and you can download the checklist right there.
That's awesome. So this is the ultimate exit strategy checklist. So these points that we hit sort of at a high level in today's session, if you want to have some time to process that, maybe give that to your business partner, or your spouse, or someone to reflect on some of these points with you and take action, then you definitely want to grab the ultimate exit strategy checklist. And again, mastersinclarity.com. If you add /exit, that'll take you straight to the checklist. And that'll also be a great way just to get in the sphere of Dolores and all the amazing work that she does. And obviously book a call with her and her team if anything that she has covered today has sparked an interest and you want to go deeper. So Dolores, I'm super grateful for you. I'm glad that seems like you got some value out of our time today. I know I got a ton of value, and I look forward to continue our conversations. But thanks so much for being here as part of this session.
Thank you, Dustin, for having me.